President Trump, sir, today you told Vladimir Putin to stop with the attacks. Do you think he'll listen to you?
I do, yeah.
Do you think there's still a chance for peace?
In 2024, Ukraine destroyed the 23rd, 67th, and 107th arsenals of the Main Missile and Artillery Directorate, GRAU, of the Russian Ministry of Defense, not counting other large Russian ammunition depots. The second season began with the 51st, near Moscow. The 51st arsenal of the Main Missile and Artillery Directorate of the Russian Ministry of Defense, destroyed on Tuesday, April 22nd, is the fourth Grau arsenal to cease to exist, following the destruction of the 23rd, 67th, and 107th arsenals in the fall of 2024. We are talking about this category of facilities, because not all ammunition depots that have been successfully destroyed. For instance, last year on August 24th, an ammunition depot in Voronezh Oblast near the city of Ostrogozhsk, where 5,000 tons of ammunition were stored, was successfully attacked. On March 20th this year, a warehouse of aviation ammunition, including cruise missiles, was destroyed in Engels. However, these facilities were not the Grau arsenals. At the same time, the Grau arsenals are separate military units that store a strategic reserve of ammunition, which is then distributed to smaller depots. In the structure of ammunition distribution, it is an important logistics hub. In addition, it repairs, maintains, and restores all ammunition, missiles, rockets, artillery shells, mortar shells, etc. In other words, their value is much greater than that of a simple storage facility. They are, in fact, a complex system. We are talking about this category of facilities because not all ammunition depots that have been successfully destroyed. For instance, last year on August 24th, an ammunition depot in Voronezh Oblast, near the city of Ostrogozhsk, where 5,000 tons of ammunition were stored, was successfully attacked. On March 20th this year, a warehouse of aviation ammunition, including cruise missiles, was destroyed in Engels. However, these facilities were not the Grau arsenals. At the same time, the Grau arsenals are separate military units that store a strategic reserve of ammunition, which is then distributed to smaller depots. In the structure of ammunition distribution, it is an important logistics hub. In addition, it repairs, maintains, and restores all ammunition, missiles, rockets, artillery shells, mortar shells, etc. In other words, their value is much greater than that of a simple storage facility. They are, in fact, a complex system. There are not many such facilities in the Russian Federation. If we take into account the known Grau arsenals, where ammunition is stored within the potential reach of Ukrainian long-range assets, we are talking about 11 facilities with a similar status. After the first 3 in 2024, we are now talking about 4 destroyed facilities in total. At the same time, after the first season of attacks in the fall of 2024, Russian troops halved the use of artillery. According to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, before these attacks, the enemy was using 40,000 rounds of various types of ammunition every day. Afterwards, this number dropped to 23,000. Now it is quite possible that the second season has begun. In general, the situation is as follows. The map below is not intended to be an exhaustive list and does not cover all of Russia's large ammunition depots. Additionally, some Grau arsenals do not store ammunition, but rather artillery or other equipment, though not shells, as is the case with the 8th Arsenal in Rybinsk, Yaroslavl Oblast. Some facilities were closed, as in Mozhaisk, and some were reformatted into defense enterprises, as the 53rd Arsenal near Dzerzhinsk. These facilities are not shown on the map. It should be noted that the 51st Grau Arsenal was located only 60 kilometers from Moscow. This is the closest such facility to the Russian capital, around which the most concentrated air defense system has been deployed. That's why this effective attack was characterized by increased complexity. At the same time, it is not yet known what exactly caused this blow. It is not known exactly how much ammunition was stored at the time of the explosion at the 51st Grau Arsenal, located east of Moscow near the town of Kirzhach, Vladimir Oblast. The stated design capacity of this facility, covering an area of about 3.5 square kilometers, is up to 264,000 tons. At the same time, a figure of approximately 105,000 tons was reported by Russian media in 2009. Journalist: You told Putin to stop attacks on Ukraine. Do you think he will listen to you? Trump: Yes, I do. Someone has to tell him.
President Trump, sir, today you told Vladimir Putin to stop with the attacks. Do you think he'll listen to you?
I do, yeah.
Do you think there's still a chance for peace?
The warriors of the Signum Unit, part of the 53rd Mechanized Brigade, continue to deal heavy losses to the enemy. The video of the combat work was released by the Kortitsia Operational Strategic Group. The brigade's drone operators, alongside adjacent units, destroyed 3 enemy armored personnel carriers that were advancing in a column toward our positions in the Lyman sector. As a result of successful work, enemy losses amounted to 3 armored personnel carriers with their crews, the statement reads. The drones destroyed enemy vehicles and equipment worth around $3 million. Earlier, Defense Express reported that the Nemesis Regiment had crushed Russian artillery near Pokrovsk. We also wrote Ukrainian forces had repelled major Russian assault 8 kilometers from the front line in the Zaporizhzhia region. Rosoboron Export, Russia's state-run arms export agency, has announced plans to establish a helicopter maintenance and repair hub in Peru, intended to service Russian-made helicopters operated across Latin America. The statement was made by the company's CEO, Alexander Mikheev, according to the Defense Post. Although specific details of the project have yet to be disclosed, the intent alone is quite vocal, especially since the announcement comes after repeated and failed attempts by the United States in 2023 to 2024 to acquire Russian-made helicopters from Latin American countries for transfer to the Ukrainian armed forces. That effort unfolded in 2 phases. The first, in January 2023, aimed to secure several dozen Mi-17 and Mi-35 helicopters from Colombia, Brazil, and Mexico. However, the plan collapsed, leaving these helicopters grounded and turning into rust with no chance of getting maintenance. The second attempt came in March 2024, when the U.S. offered Latin American nations Western-made replacements in exchange for their Soviet-era equipment. That initiative also failed to gain traction. It's also worth noting that this initiative occurred against the backdrop of U.S. Congress was blocking the supplies of military aid to Ukraine, making any opportunity to get equipment here and now critical. Now, Russia wants to enter the promising market by creating a support infrastructure for its aircraft. And here's the inventory of Russian helicopters in the region they aim to work with. Brazil, 12 Mi-35 helicopters. Purchased in 2008, decommissioned by February 2022. Mexico, 16 Mi-17 helicopters, technical condition largely unknown. Colombia, 19 to 26. Mi-17 helicopters, purchased in the 2000s, technical condition unclear. Given these numbers, one might ask a completely logical question: what does Russia stand to gain from such a modest market? But Russia's broader objective may be less about profit and more about geopolitical prestige. Establishing a service hub in Peru could serve as a symbolic foothold in what has traditionally been considered a U.S. sphere of influence.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.